Oh yeah. I'm Nikunj. Glad to be here. For those of you who don't know about Cutshort, we started in 2015, around 6-7 years ago. We have bootstrapped. We created a marketplace, and today, and on a lot of parameters, we are the number one platform for tech hiring in India. We are different in a way that we try to solve the problem from the marketplace perspective so that you get the right candidate supply which matches your jobs, who are looking out, who are top quality, who are not really there out there on other portals and stuff. But then we also differentiate and really care a lot about how do you actually find the top ones and how do you actually get the conversions. It's not just about finding the resumes and downloading the resumes. For us, and this through this kind of initiative that Abhash had started, and we also do our own webinars on these topics to make sure that people understand the hiring process, we understand how we are proceeding in the future, how the whole environment is changing, and how can we adapt so that the tools don't matter, your process actually matters, your thinking actually matters more. So we also take care of that on the platform. So that was a brief about Cutshort. We have around 20,000 plus companies who have signed up. We have around 2 million plus users who have signed up. So yeah, I think it's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Hi everyone. This is Kartik. I'm the founder of Springworks. We started in 2014. Been around, I guess, 8 years at this point. Full stack HR, right from background verification to employee engagement, and we are revenue funded as well. So unlike VC funded companies or unicorns who kind of generally beat try to kind of attract talent on salaries and perks and whatnot, we take the other way around, which is employee branding, right? How can we be employee first? How can we treat employees as our customers and do it as a product problem, right? And then focus on employer branding. And this has immense benefits. We're one of the highest rated companies on Glassdoor, 225 reviews, 4.8, and then we get around 100 to 150 applicants organically every single day, right? Just through our social channels, right? So employer branding kind of it takes a while, but it gives you kind of long-term benefits.
So I think as you mentioned, there are a lot of reasons for this, right? One of the reasons, of course, is the demand supply gap. There is so much demand right now in the market that there are more companies which are trying to woo the same set of candidates. So of course, how do you differentiate? That has been one problem or one trend or one reason for that. Second is the globalization of talent, right? So now you're seeing competition not from your local companies, and it used to be very local market, right? 2 years ago, Bangalore companies would hire only in Bangalore, Pune will only hire in Pune, and now we are seeing that across pan-India, companies in Ahmedabad hiring people in Bangalore. So within India itself, it has expanded, and outside India also, and both ways, right? Companies hiring talent outside India from India, and companies outside India hiring talent in India, right? That also is kind of growing. So the market has really become more distributed, more democratized, right? So in this kind of market, there will be more options for every candidate, which did not really happen before. So there's more talent demand, right? So that is why these two trends kind of point towards higher demand. And third thing, I think, is also the shift in the employee behavior as well. Now, people also don't want to just work for any other company. Work is very meaningful for them in a lot of ways. They want to decide, because every company is offering something which is unique, but what they want to really work on is something where they can find a good alignment with what they want to do, which values they kind of uphold, and all of those things, right? So those generation changes also have happened. And Gen Z, or Zoomers as we call them, right? They're very particular about that specific part as well. So now they're not going to choose a company which is just based on established or brand or based on salary, right? They're going to look at a lot of other factors as well. And that's why I think it has led. Now there was an option of you or a company not doing employer branding before in the earlier market, but now there's no option. You have to differentiate. And if you don't differentiate, if you don't stand out, then you don't really have any say on the talent that you're going to bring in. So that's why I think it has become very important today. And it's going to be more important in future as well, because the whole trend is going to accelerate. It's not like something which is going to recede or something like that.
Yeah, so I think Nikunj kind of said this state well. So like the supply demand is one of the biggest reasons, right? So the way too many jobs for the same number of people, for the same number of qualified people, I guess. And how do you So what happens right now when you're applying for a company, you're always looking them up on Glassdoor, you're always looking them up on Twitter or LinkedIn, right? It's like when you go to a restaurant, you're never blindly going there, right? That era has gone away, right? You're always looking them up on Zomato, checking their reviews, right? It's the same thing here. Employee branding has almost become the basic hygiene. Like if you don't have it, if you're not online, if you don't have a Glassdoor profile, if you don't have reviews, then it's almost like you'll be penalized, for not having any of that, right? So it has become basic hygiene, and for candidates to increasingly, check, okay, this is the type of company I want to work at. Salary is okay, but these are other things I value. This is why my personal life matters, work life matters. This is the culture of the company. This is the autonomy we'll have in this company, things like that. And we have seen some of these crazy stories with Bharat Pay and whatnot have also come up, where they have some companies have negatively used it, and then candidates are increasingly becoming very stringent on the type of company they want to work on, right? So they have a high bar, right? And which is not just money, it's beyond money, right? So almost basic hygiene at this point.
Yes, I think example of employer branding, when we think about it, right? Most of us think about Google, Amazon, because they have the money, and we think they can do employer branding because they can spend on it. But I think there are a lot of examples of smaller companies also which have done that very well, and they don't really have to do it at a very gigantic level, at a global level, right? They can do in a very smaller pockets where it really matters to them. So Cutshort of course does that, but I would rather take example of, let's say we all have heard about Lizzat Papad, right? It's a Mahila Grah Udyog, something, right? And it's a women-driven organization. And if you remember the ads that we used to see earlier, now they used to come on TV, but they started in 1959. That company started in 1959, and with 8 rupees as a capital, which they began with, right? And the entire imagery that we remember of that company is that some ordinary women, right, walking out of their houses, going to a factory, getting the dough, and then actually rolling the papad every day, and then their family around them is respecting them, and they have earned the respect because of the livelihood that they are earning now. So the entire imagery is now based on women empowerment. It's based on you are uplifting people, giving them livelihoods, and also giving women respect in their household, right? And that's the imagery that works, and that imagery is employer branding for Lizzat Papad. There have been case studies on that. And once you have it, your media and other people will propagate it, right? How powerful your story is. You don't really need to spend a lot of money. Now, for example, at a bootstrap company example you took, right? We all are bootstrapped. Now, how do we survive? We don't survive based on huge marketing budgets. We survive and thrive because our story is strong, our product is strong, and our fans, our customers, they believe in a story and they propagate it. We don't have to really push it. So I think similar to that, if your brand story is very good, if it's authentic, it's honest, it really will propagate by itself. So I think to think that employer branding as a concept can be used only by huge companies with huge budgets, I think it's wrong. It's something which you can control. You just need to do the homework, right? And I think we'll talk about it more in this webinar. But yeah, that would be my example, that how you can think about it at a very grassroots level.
Sure. Yeah, and I just want to emphasize the point that Nikunj also mentioned, like, you don't need any money for employer branding, right? It just does not cost anything. Employer branding is not perks. Employer branding is not, a higher salary. It's not 4-day work week. It's not, fancy offices. It's not, free food. It's none of that stuff, right? It's just being employee first, right? So what do, people really care about, right? And you kind of have to ask that question, yourself almost every 3 months, right? When you're 10 employees, then 25, 50, 100, and the answer will keep changing. At 10, you probably are reaching out to your own network. At 25, you're reaching out to, employees as in friends of your employees. And 50, it goes beyond. You have to have basic hygiene set up. 100, kind of even goes beyond to job boards and things like that. So you have to kind of keep asking that question. So it always has to come from the employees. Similar to how you run marketing for your product, right? You treat customers with that much respect. You do a product market fit. You kind of figure out what they want. You constantly ask for feedback. You're like, okay, if we are building this new feature, would you like to use? Same thing on the employee side as well. For one example is we recently did a salary advance survey. A lot of folks are talking about it on Twitter and on social media, whatnot. That getting the salary on the first of the month is actually better than the last day of the month, right? So he's like, okay, let's do it. It's a bunch of work for finance and HR. They will hate us for doing this, but let's try it out, right? So we sent a pulse to everyone in the org. And guess what? Like majority of them said it doesn't matter. Let's not do it. It's not actually going to help us. First month you will see, feel nice, but from the next month it's the same thing. Instead of getting, this on 30th, you're actually getting on first, right? So actually it does not really, mean anything. It may be just like a small, slight marketing gimmick, but it's not useful for the employees. On the other side, right? If you say, okay, what is the one thing which is hampering your productivity right now? I think the answer for all remote hybrid companies will be meetings, right? They spend 4 to 6 hours in meetings. How can you reduce? So it's not an easy problem, but you can work towards reducing it, right? Have agendas and things like that. We can get into that later. So small things, doing surveys, doing pulse, feedback sessions, anonymous sessions, and kind of going from there. Basic hygiene obviously needs to be set up, something like Glassdoor. Every single person who joins the company asks for a review, after week 1, month 1. Every single person who leaves the company, right? People who are leaving are actually the best employee evangelists, right? Ask them for a review on LinkedIn, ask them for a review on Glassdoor. And if they can say something positive after they've left the company, which when they have nothing to lose, right? If they have said something positive at that point, then your kind of game is on, right? They will leave, that's fine. For higher salary, other reasons, but if they have said something positive, that is the best possible signal you can send to a candidate, and they will look at that and say, oh yeah, I want to apply this company.
No, actually, I just have the habit of jotting down my thoughts, right? So I just have this whole, and I was watching the chat section as well. The people who are talking about salary as the major pain point right now in the market, right? And somebody in the chat section also was mentioning that if salary had been the only reason people joined, then people would not have joined so many other companies, right? So basically, how do you think about this whole salary versus this thing, right? So when you think about, I tend to think, because I come from marketing background, so I tend to think about it as a very much similar to the way the concept works in a market like consumer market. So let's say you are in a market for phones, and you have a value prop for every phone, right? So you have something, what you will get from this phone as a customer. It could be variety of things. It could be emotional value, it could be functional value, it could be something else, and then you pay a price for it, right? So there is an exchange of value which you do there when you buy a phone. And similar to that, when you are thinking about employer branding, employee is thinking, what value prop I'm getting from this company, what is the benefit I'm getting, and what is the comp I get, right? So it's a reverse situation, but as a company, there's very similar concepts. Now, as a similarity, and in a consumer market, when you're buying a phone, the higher the value prop, the higher price you can pay because you're getting more value out of it. When the employee is thinking the same thing, the employee thinks that, okay, if I'm getting the higher value proposition, then I can do with less salary, right? So it's not like always everybody's trying to, whenever you're buying iPhone, you're not trying to buy the cheapest phone. There are people who will buy iPhone, there are people who will buy OnePlus, and everybody plays in the same market. It's a big market of phones, and there are different customers who buy it for different reasons, and everyone pays a different price for it. Similar to that, there are lots of companies out there. There are lots of value propositions they offer. Now, which employee will take, or which person or which professional will take the company offer? It depends on the value proposition versus the price or the comp they're going to get, right? And one important difference between these two is actually more pronounced in case of employer branding, which is when I'm buying an iPhone or when I'm buying a phone, I can live with a bad purchase. I can reverse it immediately, right? Next day I can go and return it, or maybe 6 months down the line I can buy it again, and I can keep on buying every 3 months. But that's not the same with a job decision. When I'm joining a company, I cannot keep on changing that. It's not so easily reversible. So there are more reasons why people would actually look at value propositions more in an employer kind of a job market rather than in a customer or when they're buying a product market. Right. So I think it's important to understand this idea. And now coming to the point that will salaries matter, or do salaries only matter, right? You get the answer here that if you have a very high value prop, as a brand, right? When you are Apple, you can charge higher prices. When you are really strong employer brand, you have more leverage in terms of the compensation that you can offer, and you can get away from it. And of course, if you don't have differentiation there in terms of brand, then the only thing you are doing is commodity, right? So you're actually competing on price. When you don't have branding power in the market, you sell the product at the cheapest price. When you don't have differentiation in employees and employer market, then you pay the highest salary and try to get more people at the highest salary. So it's very similar in my mind from that perspective.
I think one key thing is to understand is like employer branding is not going to fix your, if you're underpaying by 50, 60, 80%, right? Like salary is important for a lot of, people. And I think you have to kind of segment the folks, right? So people are, who are in the age generally 20 to 30 will be like, okay, salary is important. They are in that kind of, zone of life, and they're in that phase where, they would probably not care so much about work life and the quality of work and the culture and whatnot. I'm still in a growth phase, so it depends from person to person. But generally, anywhere from say 10 to 30 to 40 lakhs, right? And beyond that, people like, okay, yes, should I, is it fine? Can I take a 5 lakh, 10 lakh, a decrease because I would want to focus on my work-life balance. I don't want to work, 18 hours a day. I want to work in a company which is async first. I want to come, work in a company where, my ideas are respected. They're at least heard. The founders are taking the time to kind of respond to, feedback anonymously, things like that, right? So I think there it kind of starts mattering. So like anything, this is again a product problem, right? So you figure out what is your ideal customer, who's your ideal employee, and you start branding towards them, right? If you think your ideal employee is someone around the age of 30, 35, who's remote, distributed, then yeah, all of these things matter. If it's someone who's kind of coming in as a fresher, then you kind of attract that type of crowd, right? Someone who's coming straight from out of college, the only thing that really matters to them is growth. How quickly can I use this as a launch pad? Can I spend a year, 2 years, 3 years and get to my next milestone from here, right? Which can be whatever, Facebook, Google, things like that as well. So it really depends on the segment you are attracting, and you have to kind of do different kind of branding for each segment, and have employer stories and things which matter to them. Like job description should also mention those things. But yes, I think to kind of answer that question, salary is a big thing, right? Is it, for a lot of people, if they get a 30-50% jump, especially if it's like double digit, upwards of 5 lakhs, then they would probably do that for a while. And then once they kind of reach a state where their basic needs are met, they have whatever savings of 12 to 18 months, that's when they start focusing on, I want to work on this type of company, right? This is, these are the people I want to work with. This is the type of manager I want to work with, right? This is the problem I would like to solve. And, 3, 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs is not going to incrementally change my life at this point, but it's actually the, quality of work which matters a lot, right? And quality of work is directly derived from your employer branding.
So I think my short answer is that everyone should be a stakeholder, because it affects everyone, right? If as a team member, I'm not getting the right kind of people in my team, my team is not going to be able to perform. And the reason why I joined this company, that reason will never become the end goal, or it will never materialize, right? My mission of the company will fail. So first of all, everybody should care about it. It's not a duty of a founder or a management person or a HR person who just wants to hire, and the HR person or recruiter has a problem right now that they are sending the offers, as I said earlier, and they're not getting accepted. And that's a pain point they have, and they come to the team saying, this is a pain point I want to solve. But that's not the right reason why you should solve it. And hence, I would say a recruitment or HR team, since they understand the employees very well, right? It really is also inside out as well, outside in. They have to understand the market as well, and they also have to understand the employees as well. And the best team which understands that is the HR team. So I would say HR team and recruitment team actually is the right custodian for this function, but they really need support from everyone. And their failure to create employer brand is everyone's failure as a company, and it will soon become a failure of the company, because if you're not able to get the right people in the team, you're not going to be able to make the right product or right service, whatever you're making. So it's very important, I think, from that perspective, to have the stakeholding very clearly defined, that everyone should care about it. If the only HR or recruiter is caring about it, then that's not the right approach. So I would say, irrespective of the size of the company, if the HR function is being done by the founder himself early stage, then founder is the custodian. But then I think it will soon become an HR and recruiter's responsibility.
Yeah, I think it needs to start from the founder. If you have the CEO, the founder, kind of, understanding the why, that's important, as kind of Nikunj mentioned. If the stakeholders are kind of, on board, then I think it makes a lot more sense, and it's a lot easier for anyone to take it from there, right? For our case, generally, it starts from, the people ops team, and we kind of sometimes get marketing support, so marketing team is kind of there to help, but most of the times it's actually very genuine, authentic, like literally screenshots of what we send to our employees are posted on LinkedIn, right? So it does not really require a fancy graphic designer or a creator or a video or any of that stuff, right? You can take a screenshot of whatever, a survey or message you sent, review you've gotten, and kind of post it, right? And so it should be ideally run by the people ops team, either the recruiter, the HR, with kind of the buy-in of the founder or the CEO. That's the best way to do it. And you keep explaining to employees, right? Everyone needs to be a part of this, right? Every review you get on Glassdoor, post it back on your Slack, right? So everyone knows, okay, we just got a new review. They will say, the people who have not yet reviewed will now be convinced to review, right? They'll be like, oh yeah, someone else reviewed in this org, let me go, also do it. It will help all of us, right? Small things like that. So it needs to start from the HR people team, but obviously with the buy-in from the founder and the CEO.
Yeah, so I think going back to my earlier point, a lot of companies just copy other companies, right? And they look at, if we can't compete on salary, let's copy the benefits that other companies are offering, right? So they have 4-day work week, let's copy that. They have unlimited number of leaves, let's copy that. So you just think about more transactional, you think about policies, somehow will create employer branding for you, right? So I think understanding that these policies are not the end all be all. These are just the mechanisms to propagate something, to facilitate something, to support people achieve something. These are the crutches where the employer branding is really standing on its own feet. These are not the employer branding in itself, but people just think and get lost in the policies themselves, and they copy. And I think and the copying continues where you copy everything, right? So you also copy that what other companies believe in. And I think if you're not natural, if it's not original thinking, and you're just copying others, it will never be like Naval Ravikant says, right? Nobody can compete or beat you at being you, right? So it's very important for you to be you and figure out what is your mission and what is your why. And if you do that well, then it will be very easy, right, for you. But if you just copy other companies' why and then you copy it here, then it's a long commitment. As Kartik said, you're just going to start the engine now. Any fakeness, anything which is not originally you, will not be able to survive, because every time you will be facing the questions not from outside but also from inside, and people will be asking you and grilling you that why we're not doing this versus this. And if you don't have a solid reason why and solid conviction behind it, then you'll not be able to actually do anything about it. So it's very important for you to know what are you doing, why you're doing that, and have that uniquely coming from your own company and your people, rather than copying other companies. I think that would be one advice, one thing I would say people should not do when it comes to employer branding, apart from, of course, being fake.
Yeah, so I think plus one to everything what Nikunj has definitely mentioned, but I would like to add two things. One is, I think someone mentioned this in the chat as well, like don't force it on employees. They'll start hating you, and everything you think you want to do, they will actually then be opposing you. So pitch it in a way that they see the value, they understand the why, and they would, they want to do it themselves, not just because you're asking them to do it, right? Only then you kind of truly get the authentic, feel, and it's easy to do that, right? It doesn't take a lot of effort. You just have to kind of, think from the other person's side. And I'm, second thing is I'm not in a, big fan of hiring like an employer branding specialist under obviously 250, 300 employees, right? I think this is something everyone needs to own, especially in the people ops team, because it's not one person's job, right? When you are a recruiter, you're talking to candidates, that is employer branding, right? How you pitch the company, what is the work life, what will you be doing here, how is the interview process, all of those things are part of employer brand. So it starts from recruiters, starts from the interviewers, goes on to the founder. Every single person in the company is kind of involved, right? So having just one person kind of run it does not really make a lot of sense, unless that person is coming in, say at 500 employees and setting the process up and setting this is what we need to do, these are all the things we should be doing, this is how we should be doing, right? That's different. But it just cannot be, we've hired our one person employee branding, HR, and we're all set, right? That is never going to work, right? It's one of those things which you have to understand why you want to do it, and then kind of make sure everyone is in the loop for that. And yeah, my last thing is just be very, very authentic. No need for fancy videos. I would say don't spend like whatever 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, how much ever money you spend on making a nice video, and then you're like, oh, this is not giving us any ROI, we're not getting any new applicants. Don't be kind of short-sighted that way and say, just kind of lose faith, this is not working out, let's move to something else. So it takes a while. Be authentic, just be very, very transparent, communicative, and then just be patient, right? Like with anything else, like this takes time. It will take 3, 6, 9 months, but you will start seeing the benefits if you're playing a long-term game. Yeah, so final message is actually be patient. It takes time. Don't expect results in the first month, first kind of quarter, right? So be patient. Don't kind of give up. And I think whatever you're doing with authenticity is going to work out, right? Even if it's not mentioned in this webinar.
Okay. So message from my side is that first of all, believe in it. It's gonna work. A lot of people start with a place of distrust that it will not work. But if you start believe that you can make it work, it's like as I said again, it's like selling a product in the market. You can always charge lowest price, and you think price is the only differentiator, but it is not. Same thing, salary is not the only differentiator. Believe in it. It's great today that you are being forced to innovate on that, because by innovating on this and by competing, only you will be able to understand your company very well. So take it as an opportunity, not as a threat, that today you are being forced to do it. It's possible. It will make you do wonderful things in terms of understanding your company, your culture, your people better, and use that opportunity to create, as Kartik said, move 1 inch at a time, and don't make it a very big exercise in terms of dollars, in terms of, I don't have resources, I don't have money. All you need is a very minimal thing. And if you have the right belief, if you understand the pulse of the people, the kind of things you want to do, you'll be able to do it. That would be my part.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Kartik. Thanks a lot, Nikunj, for all your experiences, perspectives, tips. We will open the breakout rooms right away. By the way, you will receive a feedback email from the platform that we are using, Luma. Please do give us feedback. That helps us a lot. And in the email, we will also ask you, what is the next topic that you would like us to talk about, and we will share it with, of course, with Springworks as well as Cutshort team, and they, depending on how relevant it is for our audiences, we can pick it up as the topic for the next webinar. So please do give us that feedback. Thanks a lot. I will close the recording now and open up the breakout rooms.